This is Anna Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole. I am your host, the salty bitch. Now, I am in the process of building up the life sequence. I have tried to killing part 1 for the self, and then it gets into part 2, which is the cultivating role. And I've been looking at the cultivating role for a while now. It's almost done. Like, it is done. It's all on my website. It's all set. And I'm sitting here like, okay, where I want to group these. Like, if I were to take all the cultivators, what are the groups of cultivators? So I started to put them all together in a group, and I realized I've got 6 of them. So I want to sit down and just like kind of sit back and go, do we have everybody? Is everybody accounted for? So the 6 groups of cultivation are these. You have your business owners. These are the people who go on to own their own business. Doesn't matter what they're doing. They are literally owning their own business. It could be self-employed. It could be business owner, CEO, or corporate. Doesn't matter the level. They own the business. The next one is parents. These are the people who have taken a very keen interest in little people and the nourishment and propagation of said little people. Now, for business owners, they are seeking to cultivate patrons and their employees. They should be cultivating their employees. Good chances, though, they're not. They're only focused on the patrons, which is why a lot of businesses suck, which is why a lot of people are quitting their job because they're like, yeah, you guys suck. So business owners really should be nourishing their staff, their employees, and the patrons. Parents, we all know this one. You nourish your child. And then teaching, I really hate that, nourishing your child. It's your creation because you've created the child. You've created the child. Frankenstein was the only one who got this right as far as if you're a father or a mother, you have a creation because you've created it. The opposite of adult is child. The opposite of parent is creation. Get that in your head. Throw out the ego. You can have self-authority. The next one on the list is teachers and healers. This is the same group. The difference between a teacher and a healer is a teacher is the one who didn't do their job, and the healer is the one who goes in and does the job for the teacher later, but does it badly. That's pretty much it. Now, if you're actually good at your job, then what you're really doing is teaching people the right way the first time, or teaching people the right way the second time because the first person didn't do it right. But teaching and healing are the exact same thing. The psychology, the science, the math, the logic, the physics is all there to really substantially prove and support that healing and teaching or healing and learning are the same thing. So if you have somebody who's healing you, but they're not teaching you, you're wasting your time and your resources with them. Please find someone else. If you have somebody who is sitting down and teaching you, they should be doing it in such a way that when you are done with them, you are done with them. You don't need them. In fact, you should be done with them pretty quick because they should have done their job. If you keep going back to them, that's what we call a scammer, where you have to keep paying for their reason. It's like a plumber who comes and breaks your toilet, so you have to call him back in about 10 days. It's like that. It's exactly like that. So you want to make sure that whoever is teaching you or healing you is actually teaching you how to be independent of them. See how they have a vested interest, which is why I feel that teaching and healing and coaching is really, it's skeezy. That's why I do everything DIY, is because it's skeezy. It's a legal scam, and it's dirty in my opinion because it's unethical. So that's why I go DIY with everything. The next side of all this is your finance investment. And this is basically when you are cultivating, but you are cultivating yourself. This is where you need to know about finance and personal investment so you know how to enhance what you already are. So if you are stepping into the world of finance investing, that is self-cultivation. And then you have our world nourishment. The world nourishment is people who want societal change and who are actively taking action to get that. That's what I do. Societal nourishment, or the world nourishment, is currently not in existence. It doesn't exist. We do see this with activists, humanitarian, philanthropy, and nonprofits. But there's no real name or anything for it. So you have a lot of people who will go through college and no one is telling them, it's an option because there's no money in it, supposedly. Well, there is. You just got to know how to utilize what you've got. It's a completely different abstract way of taking your profession. But a lot of people in the world are world nourishers. And you can be a business owner and a world nourisher. That's what I do. You can be a teacher, healer, coach, and also do world nourishment. You can do finance, investing, and also world nourishment. And then there's the network communications. And this is people who literally specialize in networking and helping people bridge that gap of network and communications. Anyone who has a network community, anyone who does networking for a living, anyone who does a social club is a networker. Now, whether or not they are doing it ethically and or optimized is a whole nother category. That's a whole nother conversation. So that is actually something I love doing, is optimizing network communication. Now, if you own a business, you have a network. There's a good chance you have not optimized your network. And business owners really, really have a problem with this. They think, okay, I got my business, I have my product, and I've got my patrons. I'm good. No, you've got your employees and your staff, and you have a network, and you should be nourishing your network and your communications inside your business to take care of your employees and your staff. But a lot of people don't do that. And that's why the workplace sucks, is because networking communication is not nourished by the business owner inside the network. As people get smart, and I've noticed this among smarter groups, smarter people, they've caught on to that. And they're starting to take action in optimizing and nourishing their network communications. The next side of all this is the grasshoppers. I love grasshoppers. I love grasshoppers. I am a grasshopper. The grasshoppers are the cultivators in the world who nourish others by giving them celebration, joy. They are our musicians. They are our artists. They're amazing people. I love the grasshopper people. And our society is anti-grasshopper. So if you have chosen to be a grasshopper, you know right off you're on your own. You know that. You're told starving artists are thrown out and okay, yep, I'm going to and a lot of people are okay with that because that's just the way it is. As soon as you realize you're a grasshopper, you know that you have chosen the life of the black sheep, and that's just all it is. So when you have an understanding of these six groups, and I don't believe there's any, I think this is it. These six groups are it. Business owner, parenting, financial investment for self-nourishment or self-cultivation, and then your optimized network, your teaching, healing cultivators. Now, if you are a teacher and a healer, the best thing you can do is literally follow the footsteps of Dr. Phil and TL Swan and take it public and go live. And the reason why is because we are in a DIY society. We are moving into a DIY society. And the thing with DIY, especially when it comes to healing and teaching, this is big, is self-authority has been compromised. There is no way you can teach somebody and not be a spoon feeder who enables them by taking away their authority, which is the problem. This is where we get the forbidden fruit paradox. And as soon as you decide to be a teacher, healer, coach, if you do not handle this the right way, you are treading ethical waters. And there's a very, very clear line of, are you a supervisor to help guide and nourish their journey? Are you enabling? There is no such thing as done for you learning. And that's the big problem. Done for you learning is, I call them glorified audiobooks. That's the teacher who stands at the front of the room and reads books to people. Like, they're a glorified, that is so ego fed, it's disgusting. Right down to a stage, a platform, while your audience sits and you're on stage. It's disgusting. So the done for you teaching, done for you healing, this is so toxic. It's a big part of the problem. And of everything in our culture, they should know better. So it really doubles their lack of ethics in their own profession. So if you are wanting to be a teacher or a healer, your only option is to do it ethically. You really are a supervisor. And the very first thing you need to do is change your name. You're a supervisor. Because if you are actually a teacher or a healer, well, by default, you're enabling other people, which is toxic, and you're actually destroying the very thing they need to be independent of you, which is their authority, to feed your ego. So the very first thing you actually have to do is change your name to supervisor, to downgrade yourself. That way you get rid of the forbidden fruit paradox, so that the student doesn't feel like they are unauthorized to make their own decisions, which again is the forbidden fruit paradox. So the best thing you can do is take it public and do a YouTube channel. YouTube has literally become the schoolroom of the world. It is literally like the schoolroom of the world. So you say it once, you deliver the information to people, and then you shut up and you get off stage. And then people get to choose if you are good enough for them to listen to, which is fantastic. It's exactly what it needs to be. And if the person has or requires questions or help, that is when they need to do the research themselves, which now we're getting into DIY, where they have to research and they have to look up. They need to be, oh, I don't know what that word means. Let me pause the video and let me go Google it. And that's what you need. That is beautiful, beautiful setup here. In addition to that, that one-on-one attention. Now you're going to have students where they think they need one-on-one help. Do they? Or is that codependency? And this is where if you study the psychology of codependency and how closely it really rides that line of, or are you leaning on the teacher or you just don't want to do it yourself? Now, in a world of DIY teaching, this is gone. It's eliminated. Either they figure this out, which is the very first lesson of all of nature, is you figure this out and you help yourself, or you don't. And if you don't help yourself, oh, good God, I saw this so many times in school where you have students who refuse to help themselves. They're the ones who are always copying other people. They're the ones who are always, we saw this in the movie Raya and the Last Dragon, where the dragon says, you know how you're doing a group project and everyone works on the project and you don't really do anything and let them do the work and you just turn it in, but you get the same credit? That's what we're talking about here. There's a lot of people who don't do the work, who literally just ride off of the work of others. And a lot of enablers, narcissists, love those people. We call those teachers because now they feel useful. So now they get to sit down and work one-on-one with a student who needs extra help. No, they don't. No, they do not. In most cases, the student doesn't want to do it and they're being legally forced to do it, which opens up a whole nother can of worms. And the teacher feels good about being needed. We call this codependent narcissism. We know this is narcissism. So when you step out of that, when you're no longer part of that kind of an environment, the student, even though they struggle at first, and that's the apprentice life, there's going to be struggle. If the material is good enough, the student will not struggle as much. And this is why you need to understand what an academic cradle is. An academic cradle is literally an academic discipline that holds all the other disciplines. And because people don't know about academic disciplines or academic cradles, they don't know that the disciplines actually go into a cradle, another big encompassing discipline. Now, the cradle has multiple roles that make it different than all the other disciplines. Biology is the only cradle that everybody in the world knows about. The other three cradles have been completely removed from our society. Two of them people have heard of, but don't actually study them or know what they are. And the third one isn't even a discipline. And ironically, it is the largest and most precious of all the cradles. I am still trying to figure out how it has not been a science for 2,000 years. But okay, we'll go with this. So the academic disciplines, or the academic cradles, there are four of them. Biology is the one we all know. Now, biologists know this because when you get to a biologist, they go, oh, yeah, we know. Yeah, thank you, biologists. Biologists are up to speed because they've studied biology. Biologists are the one who get there and go, oh, this is holding all of them. It's a cradle. Yes, it's a cradle. We call this an academic cradle. So what you don't know is all of the disciplines condense and integrate together to fit inside biology. So biology is the science of all of them. Physics is in all of them. Math is in all of them. Music is in all of them. Art is in all of them. All of them are inside of all of them. But they are held together by the glue that is biology. This is an academic cradle. And if you remove, and biology is nothing but the science of how it all connects. That's all it is. It's a cradle. The next level outside of that is logic. That is an academic discipline. It is the academic cradle. It is the common denominator, the origin of all of them. It is the origin. is the logic. The science of logic is the largest next cradle. Now, this comes back twice. It's so big, it actually comes back twice. The next one is philosophy. That is the next academic cradle. That one sits above biology and logic. So you get to look at all of them as a whole and go, so this is biology. Oh, but this is logic. Oh, but this is philosophy. And we're going to show you how all of these now come together. Now we're going to take one more zoom out. And this is the discipline that no one ever hears of called story. I have no idea why this never made it into a discipline. Like, we are only obsessed with it. How many trillions of dollars do we collectively spend every year on story? Like movies, books. We are obsessed with this thing. And yet it's not a discipline. It is an academic cradle. It is the mother lode. There is nothing bigger than story. Now, every historian in the world is going to be going, wait, that's what we are. Yes, but you're tiny. You're tiny. Historians, I don't know what's going on with them. They're so, they need to zoom out and see the bigger picture. The story is literally all of it. It's the story of education. It's the story of you. It's the story of nature. It's the story of all and us. That is the science of story. It is the mother lode of all cradles. Now, ironically, it's logic. It's the science of logic. So when you study logic and you realize this, you're like, it's just story. Yes, it's story. That's what logic is. And then when you get to the science of story and you understand how everything collects inside of, even philosophy sits inside of this thing, you realize, oh, it's just logic again, which is why it shows up twice. And that's why it's the origin, is because logic is the story. So you have logic or story, and then you have philosophy. But logic is a branch of philosophy, which is why you've got the two different sides of it. And then you've got biology, and then you've got your 18 disciplines. So where most people are, I'm just going to say it, where you are is you have studied maybe one or two of those disciplines, which is a fraction of biology, which is a fraction of philosophy, which is a fraction of logic, which is a fraction of the story. So as a result, people don't have this information. They don't understand it. They have no idea because you haven't studied a cradle. So when you start school and you're sitting here looking around at everything, trying to figure out what you're doing, what you are really doing is trying to figure out your relative location to you, society, and the disciplines. And those are the three pillars. You have you, the disciplines, and society. And all three of those things fit together. But if you don't know your relative location to society, where you are when you start, where you're going, you're not going to be able to choose the right vocation for you. It's going to take you a long time to figure this out. And if you actually had good teachers, you would have had this figured out by the time you were 4 to 12 years old. But because most people never figure this out, some of them kind of figure it out by the time they're 40. A few of them get lucky, but they can't explain the theory behind it. Is because the teachers are really, really bad. So as a result, you're not being taught about the academic disciplines. You're not being taught pretty much about anything. And you, after they waste your first 20 years of life, kind of have to wander through life to figure this out for yourself. Now, if you're a teenager watching this, oh, we're going to get you right to the beginning, and you're good. You're set. You're in the right place right off. And that's our agenda, is to get teenagers in here like right off and get them right on the right step. That way they get the education they should have gotten, that everybody else should have gotten, but they're getting it early. And that's what our franchise does. Now, in addition to that, we also have the sequence and we also have the disciplines. So in order to understand, basically the disciplines are the tools for you to navigate the society. But where in the society you're going to go is going to be dependent upon what you want. And that's going to require you knowing who you are, which you won't know until you figure out the disciplines. But you need to know what the disciplines do, what they're for, and how they relate to everything, each other, themselves, the sequence, and you, in order for you to make that decision. Then you'll be able to navigate and figure out where in the sequence you are, which you can't do until you know who you are, which you can't do until you know the disciplines. You see how this is called a catch-22. But with the right education, you know right away that you're not going to find out this information until you actually do the learning journey of the discovered self, which is why you need to go through it 3 times. The first time you go through it is to introduce you to the academic disciplines. By the time you are 12, you should have gotten a full tour of all the disciplines, including the 4 cradles, taught how they relate and what they actually do, and then how to utilize them and implement them and how they fit together. And then you go through them a second time. Now, the first time you go through them, you are only learning apprentice leveled skills in all of them. So you are virtually an apprentice in all 18 disciplines. By the time you get to the next one, that tradesman level, you will really have polished it all off. You can do it pretty quickly. You're very good with proficiency, but you're not efficient. It's not high quality. Now, it's around this time, 12 years old to 15, that you really know where you want to go, which part of the spectrum, but you need to know the entire sequence. The first thing you need to ask is, what point of view do you want in the sequence? Do you want to be in the foundational? Do you want to be a pioneer? Do you want to be a cultivator, a visionary? Or do you want the world global view? The world global view is basically that world nourishment point of view where you see how everything moves and everything works. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, only the Healing Garden has this information. Only the Healing Garden has this particular knowledge. And as a result, a lot of people don't know when they go through the educational system that this is what they want. They sheepishly, because they are literally told to be sheep and just go through the process, are just obeying orders. But for the people who truly are world nourishers, this is a pull for them that drives them insane most of their lives because they just got to see what's at the top. It feels like, what is it? I got to see. Do you remember in Independence Day when that dude, I don't remember his name, but he was in Jurassic Park, is saying, I gotta see. And he's running to the rooftop because he's gotta see. And they're all like, David, you gotta come down to the basement. No, I gotta see. And he's running to the top. Yeah, he is totally a world. He's gotta see the big picture. He has got to understand. And, oh, and I love this. I love him. I remember seeing him going, that's the dude I wanna be. I cannot remember his name. David. Jeff Goldblum. That is his name. I wanted to be I was so Jeff Goldblum's character. He was playing chess in Central Park. And then he was like, no, I gotta see. And then he's sitting here looking at the mathematical countdown with the pattern. He's going, oh, I'm making the mathematical connections. I know what's going on. And then he gets his ass over to Washington and he uses triangulation to locate her whereabouts in the White House. And then he disrupts the signal, sends his cell call to his wife. And he's like, I need to talk to you. I got something here. Like I totally understand that man. He is a world nourisher. He gets it. Now, it's all materialized in the whole, oh, I got to save the planet. No. It's not, I got to save the planet. It's I need to see the big picture because I know what's going on and I know how to move the pieces. And this is real. It's not, the world nourishers are the ones who can see all the dominoes moving. They can see the meta-heuristic algorithm that is society. That's really a good way of putting it. They literally can see the meta-heuristic algorithm of the entire society. They have to understand the levels, the layers, the high-end algorithm. And they can feel it long before they can see it. And that's the most maddening thing in the world, is when you can feel that algorithm and you have no idea what you're looking for. Now, here's the problem with meta-heuristic. I'm going to call them this, meta-heuristic minds. That's what I'm calling them, meta-heuristic minds. A meta-heuristic mind is somebody who can see an entire algorithm of all the moving pieces. The problem is, if you have teachers who are not meta-heuristically minded, it's painful. And we have a lot of those. This is the problem. If you have a teacher who can only see one part of the equation in very simple terms, they have no business teaching. None. And the reason why is because they cannot see. It's an inside point of view trying to teach an inside point of view about the outside point of view. They are an outsider to the outside, trying to educate the insiders who's an insider on the outside, which they know nothing about. Meta-heuristic people are the people who are insiders and they're outsiders, and they've been insiders to almost every form of equation that's literally accessible in the entire algorithm. So they have all of the points of views in addition to their own, in addition to the outside and the inside point of view, and they've integrated them. And now they sit down with others and say, all right, I've been through every corner of this world. I can show you every little part of the system and the society. I have been first class. I have been second class. I have been high class. I have been the other side of high class. I have been on the ethical side, the unethical side, and I have seen the ways of the world. And now I will tell you, this is what the world looks like. This is how the world actually runs. There are 3 economies, and one of those economies is completely invisible. And once you find a metaheuristic teacher and you start to understand that you have a metaheuristic mindset, it's a completely different kind of education. Now, the teachers who are in school who are not metaheuristic minded, they are I can't even say they are fantastic to be teaching. They really should not be teaching. If you are not a master of your vocation, you should not be teaching. I cannot say that enough. You are causing more harm than good. And one of the characteristics of a metaheuristic mind is to be able to sort out, oh, are you a metaheuristic mind? Are you over here? Are you over here, but you want to be there? And if you don't have a metaheuristic mind, you can't do this. This is how and why teachers are toxic, is because if you don't have the ability to recognize a genius sitting in your classroom, then what the fuck are you doing? That genius requires an entirely different type of education that you are not capable of giving them if you can't even recognize them. Which means you really should only have geniuses teaching children, because the genius can sort out the geniuses from the non-geniuses, can nourish others into genius level, and the ones who just aren't performing, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But for everybody else, and by the way, according to neuroscience, 98% of us are born geniuses. So you really need a genius inside every classroom teaching people, yeah, if you are part of that 98% who was born a genius, first of all, if you're born a genius, you are a genius. Your stupid is what lays on top of that genius, and it suppresses your genius. So you're still a genius. You just got a lot of stupid in your way. You got to learn how to get the stupid off, which we teach you here at the Healing Garden. So once you understand that you are a genius, because 98% of the population is born a genius, now we just got to get your stupid off of you. That way you can actually realize your genius. Only 2% of the population isn't like this. So now it's a question of, what do you want? Do you want to rescue your genius? Oh, I love doing rescue missions. We could totally do that. We will do that. Rescue missions are the best, because you're not healing. You're actually conducting a rescue mission. Your identity has been taken captive by your subconscious mind, who has gone rogue. He mutinied on the ship and he put the identity in the brig, and now you got to get it back. It's amazing. So you have to, very loving and nourishing. You know that moment at the end of the Lego movie when they have that heart to heart with Lord Business, and they sit down with Lord Business and they have that loving talk? That's what you got to do with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is Lord Business, and you can't manhandle Lord Business. You need to give him a loving heart to heart talk, and you say, you know, we are all special. We really are. But the subconscious mind is not special. The identity is what makes us special. The subconscious mind is a very, very predictable, calculated algorithm called the metaheuristic algorithm of the subconscious mind. And it is so predictable, it's painful. So every subconscious mind needs the exact same soothing, it's okay, they're there. And then we get the identity out of the brig and we bring the identity. This is really an oversimplification of what really goes on, but you get the idea. So once you realize your 6 groups of cultivations, and this is it right here, is after you go through Triadic Healing Part 1 and you've nurtured the self, Triadic Healing Part 2, the very next thing you need to ask is, of these 6 kinds of people, and you can be all of them. You can be all of them. In fact, you should be at least 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be at least 4 of them. 5 would be better, but really you need to be 4 of them. I'm going to just give them to you. You really need to do network optimization, finance, investment for self-nourishment, teaching, healing, cultivation, and a type of business ownership or grass hopping. Those are your 2. So the 3 of them are hardcore. Everyone needs these. And then you need to choose either business ownership or grasshoppering. Now, if you decide I want to be a parent, that's okay too. Absolutely. You need 4 of them, like 4 of them to be mentally healthy. I'm going to write that down. 4 are mandatory for mental health. And if you have less than 4 of these, you're going to be mentally ill. Bottom line. So says the algorithm. So, and that's it really. At Triadic Healing Part 2, the next question is, all right, now we need to decide which of these 6 groups you are going to be a part of. And you already have the foundation at Traumatic Healing Part 1, and then we move you into Traumatic Healing Part 2. So Traumatic Healing Part 2, you're going to select 4 of the 6 groupings. And you can change this anytime, but I can tell you right now, cultivation healing, because you're going to need to do that for yourself. That's the DIY teaching healing. You're going to need the finance investment, which is self-nourishing, and you're going to need networks communications. You cannot function without these 3 things up and working to optimize. You need to become a master in those 3 things, mandatory. And that's what we work with you on. Then you have world nourishment, grasshoppers, parenting, business ownerships. You need to choose one more, at least one more. The rest is up to you. And once you have, and really this is where a lot of people struggle, is business ownership, parenting, grasshopping, or world nourishment. Now we got a lot of people who are in the world nourishment grasshopper stage. And then there's the 9-to-5 job people. I don't even have them on here. I'll add them over here. 9-to-5 job people. I didn't even think about those people. 9-to-5 jobs. So 7 groups. Yeah, that's not even in my brain. That's interesting. And so, that's a really good way of looking at it, is we are told, all right, you either go to college or you get a job. But there are 7 groups here. 7. And you need 3 of them just for your basic foundation and 1 more for mental health optimized. This is why our society is all messed up. So when you get to cultivation, we're going to continue your education in self-teaching and healing, self-finance investment, and then networks communications. And then if you want business ownership, which I really strongly recommend you do anyway, then we plug you in with our Mother Nature's business model. If you want to be a grasshopper, I'm totally going to be all over that with you, because that's my world. And then the world nourishment is also what we do. And we have facilities in place to train you how to become a world nourisher. So if you are 15 going, oh my God, I want to be a world nourisher, come aboard. We have a training program just for that. So that's one of the things that we are going to be launching. Very, very excited about that, is training you how to be a world nourisher. And basically what it consists of is getting you on board and then giving you the education you require for sociology and for the psychology, human psychology, and giving you that big picture. It's literally training you to be a genius at the world level so you can see how this multi-heuristic algorithm moves. And then parenting, of course, if you are wanting to become a parent, or if you are wanting to self-parent, I strongly recommend that course as well. And self-parenting, self-teaching, self-healing really are the same course. So I could easily throw parenting right in, and I probably will. I'll throw parenting right into teaching healing. And I already do. It's called teaching parenting healing, or it's all the same thing. And that is something, we have that coming with a franchise, where our franchise does done for you homeschooling. But if you are expecting, or if you are wanting and you're thinking about it, we have parenting classes that start you right off. Oh, you're thinking about becoming a parent? Are you mentally healthy enough to do that? A lot of people are asking that question now. Thank you. So now it's okay, if you're thinking about becoming a parent, let's make sure you're mentally healthy to do so. So we have parenting classes that immediately start you off with Traumatic Healing Part 1, get you solid and stable with your self-help. And then from there, we get you over to the cultivation side. And then we train you into DIY teaching, DIY healing, DIY parenting. That way, your child is already on the right foot. Now, this is the best part. I love this so much about the franchise. We work with you from concept of parenting all the way up through kindergarten, so that we give you the same model we follow in kindergarten. That way, when the child transfers over, it is smooth for the child and there's no abrupt anything. And children are born naturally wanting to go to school. So we keep that momentum going, and we help you create the learning environment in your home that we will be using in our franchise. That way, when your child is ready to come over, it literally looks the exact same way. And we're not talking about the decor or anything. We can get into that if you want, but we're talking about the facility, and the toys are the same thing. It's Fisher Price. It's very strategic. It's all outlined in the Salmon of Knowledge, and we break down that early learning environment. My mother researched how to make genius children, and then she used all of her children as experiments. I love my mom. It's probably always where I get it from. So that I was subject to number 2 in her experiment. And about 2 months ago, I called up my mom and said, you know how you researched making genius children? And she goes, yeah, well, it worked, Mom. And then I walked her through, and she's got my niece right now who she's putting the course through. And she's like, and I walked her through it. She was like, well, this is what I did. And I took down her entire program. And I said, well, it worked. Now, this is what I did differently. And here's where this is interesting. She had my brothers on guitar. She had my sister and I on piano. It didn't hit with my brothers. Oh, my oldest brother, my older brother is like, he's definitely genius potential, but other things happened. Now, my sister took piano. She's got potential for it. She's definitely got potential. It's unrealized, but she's got potential. Now, in addition to that, we also did, oh, see, it was the musicals. She had Sound of Music and My Fair Lady playing. Now, with my sister, with all my siblings, they did not touch any of the arts. I went crazy with the arts. And it was exposure to Rodgers and Hammerstein. It was exposure to theater stage. That was vital to this. Theater stage makes genius people when you give it to them young. And so it was also, the opera was a huge part of that. But it was in the order of operations. It was very much in the order. It was music theory. And really it was the cinema that I was exposed to. So, and I know why, like I break it all down in Salmon of Knowledge. So once you understand how the human psychology develops, especially on that genius level, and how to keep it going, because we're born there, so you want to keep it going. We give you that formula, we teach you how, we train you how, so your children stay on that route. And then we train our supervisors, now don't interfere with it, don't touch it. The child will naturally develop and educate all on their own. You need to leave it alone. And when the child has that urge to want to study X, and we have the formula, so we can sit down and show you this is the order of operations in which the child is going to want, all on their own, independently, to follow the sequence. Let them. And what is missed is make-believe, imagination, theater stage, which hits around 3 years old. 4 years old, we really see it take off. Your child, see, there it is. See, the others did not get into theater. I did. At 4 years old, I was put on a stage. My siblings were not, only I was. And oh, good God, did that take off. So that took my, oh yeah, so by the time I was 5, I was going to be an actress. That was my thing. And that really fueled all of it. And that is what is cut out of our educational department, is theater stage. And then after that, you get into the reading, writing, arithmetic. After that comes linguistics and logic. Now that's what I got, but not my other siblings. So you want linguistics, logic, and then mathematics. Now, logic is actually the first grouping of math. Logic is the first math, but our educational system cuts it out. So as a result, a lot of people are not learning logic, but logic is what cleans your mental health. Do you see the connection? So once you get all of this underway, once you get to Triadic Healing Part 2, in order to continue right after Triadic Healing Part 1, we have to decide which of the 6 groups you want. And we strongly recommend teaching, healing, parenting, all for the self, and then for others if you want, and then finance, investing for self, and then network communications, which is all covered under Triadic Healing Part 2. But you also have the ability to add bonus business ownership. So we need to add, so this is the other 3 things that we're missing, is the grasshopping and the world nourishment and the 9 to 5. But the society has 9 to 5 taken care of. So we're going to focus on world nourishment, and we're going to focus on the grasshopper. Those are going to be the other 2 sides of this. Grasshopper is going to be, I want to be a musician when I grow up. I want to be an artist when I grow up. Or I want to be, well, I'm building a clubhouse. I own a playground. So if you are going into the entertainment business, you're basically a grasshopper. Yeah, it's entertainment. So we basically show you the business side of entertainment, because we get rid of the starving artist bullshit. We throw that out. And we show you how to turn it into a business. So that is pretty much it. And then after Triadic Healing Part 2, that is when we go on to world nourishment. So Triadic Healing Part 3 is actually world nourishment. And that's where we've taken everything that we have, and then we show you how to nourish the world with it. Triadic Healing Part 4 is philosophy. And that's now when you step into the next academic cradle. And that's when you get to step back and go, oh, so now I see the big picture. Yeah, this is the big picture. And then Triadic Healing Part 5 is story. So as we find more academic cradles, that is when we get more triadic healing. So triadic healing is literally all the cocoons and the growth out. If you think of a gobstopper, you start at the core, which is the self, and then the next tier outside of the self, that's going to be your cultivation. And then outside of that one is going to be world nourishment. Outside of that one, you get into philosophy. Outside of that one, endurance story. If there's anything beyond that, I'll let you know once we get to it. There's going to be something. I know it's infinite. I know it's infinite. I'm a cartographer of the abstract, and this is what I do. And I've only gotten to the 5th level. So as I get to the next level, I'm very excited because I'm only 44 years old. And I'm going to be like, this is going to be great because I'm on a clock now. Oh, it's a beautiful clock. It's the universal clock that you figure out around the 4th level. And once you start to realize that there's a clock, then you get to start to see the next level. And then, so I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. At this current ticking rate, I'm looking at discovering a new academic cradle 4 times, 4 cradles every year. That's where I'm at, is 4 cradles a year. Hypothesis. I am literally 1 data point away from confirming this information. And I'm very excited because the math is like, ooh, I'm very excited. So if this does fall into place, we're looking at 4 academic cradles every year. I will see what the clock does. We are at the mercy of the universal clock. So that is pretty much it. That's where we are all set. We'll just go on from there. All right. So thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.